Okay, welcome to a new episode of Nate's MMA Corner. I'm Nate, and if you watch my show, you're in my corner. Today's episode is a post-fight show for UFC on Fox. Weidman versus Gastelum. Man, this fight card just drove me nuts because there's 13 fights and 8 decisions. Had there been a couple more quick finishes or at least second round finishes, then it would have just really elevated this card that much more for me. However, yeah, there's a post-fight of just the main card, and let's get started. So, the main event was a middleweight clash with Chris, the All-American Weidman, which, for me, I think he should be called Chris, the real crippler Weidman, long story short, because of the Anderson Silva fights. Yeah, he fought Kelvin Gastelum, Ultimate Fighter winner at middleweight, who eventually would drop down to welterweight and come back to middleweight. And yeah, this is one of those rare moments where I got every main card fight wrong. I was wrong about all my picks were wrong. I went 0-4 on this card. It's been probably 5, 6, 7 months since the last time this has happened to me on my predictions. But yeah, Chris Weidman, third round submission, arm triangle choke, and Chris Weidman looked fairly good throughout the first 2 rounds and got to finish in the third round. Then in the co-main event in the featherweight division, we had Darren Elkins, the Damage, versus Dennis Bermudez. And this fight, just like, I had it unanimous decision for Darren Elkins after the fight was over, if I were judging the fight. I do not see how the judges had it a split decision. That's just mind-boggling. But yeah, it was pretty much a back and forth, but with Elkins getting the better of the grappling and overall better strikes. So, and that was like every round too. Darren Elkins did his thing, and he's a legit contender now at featherweight after paying his dues for years in the UFC. So, and I had high hopes for Darren Elkins like 2-3 years ago, and then I kind of gave up on him. But now he's kind of resurrected his career with Team Alpha Male, and he's looking good, and he's back on track. And I think he's someone to consider, especially with the Mirsad Bektik fight. He made that big comeback. Then in the light heavyweight division, we had Patrick Cummins versus Gian Vellante, and Patrick Cummins won by split decision, and it's just like Patrick Cummins. I can't believe his striking got that much better. He doesn't leave his head out there as much as he used to, and I thought he was going to get knocked out easily by Gian, but Patrick Cummins, used the wrestling and moved his head a lot so he wouldn't take a lot of heavy shots to the head. But there was a moment or two where he got rocked, and I was like, okay, this is what I expected. Gian to land 1 or 2 heavy shots and then stun Patrick and then capitalize, and he wasn't able to. Patrick Cummins just kept closing that distance and using his wrestling and grinded out a hard-fought decision. And Patrick Cummins really resurrected his career. I mean, he was borderline cut at one point, in my opinion. But with this win and his last win, it's really put him back in his UFC career, back in the spotlight. And yeah, it was decision split win for Patrick Cummins, but I had Patrick winning pretty much all 3 rounds. It was pretty much takedowns and then some good ground strikes. Then in the bantamweight division, we had Jimmy Rivera versus Thomas Almeida, and this one now I went back and forth. I wasn't sure who to pick, but I ended up picking Thomas Almeida, and I was wrong. Jimmy Rivera really outworked Thomas Almeida and dominated pretty decisively. And this one was unanimous decision win. It was 29-28, 30-26, and 30-27. You can't get any more dominant than that. And Jimmy Rivera is definitely in title contention now at bantamweight. And this guy really, I felt like he kind of came out of nowhere. I mean, I remember when he made his UFC debut, and now I thought, okay, this guy has some hype around him, but it just, now he's in title contention. I mean, he beat a top 10 guy, and I think a match with Dominic Cruz or someone in that caliber is a good matchup next for him. And possibly, if depending on how injuries and placements go, maybe even a title shot. But yeah, there you have it. That's my post-fight rundown of UFC on Fox 25, Weidman versus Gastelum, and this felt like just a tedious card at times because the first couple fights were decision, and then you had a couple quick finishes, then you had another decision, then another decision, and then you had the Ryan LaFleur fight where he got knocked out, and then then a quick finish, and then it was like decision, and I wanted one or two more finishes, but overall, I like this card. I mean, it was star-studded. I think it didn't get the credit it deserved, but for the diehard fans like me and some of you watching, it was worthwhile overall. At the same time, in that regard. But anyways, that wraps up this post-fight show. Stay tuned for my pre-fight for UFC 214, which will be Daniel Cormier versus John Jones Part 2. And so stay tuned for that. And until then, see ya.